Greetings, royal family. All right, I barely made it. I barely made it to episode 3 of Tyler Perry's Girlfriends. So here we go, y'all. Here we go. All right. So Karen, remember Karen and the ice cream supermarket man that she had it out with in the supermarket. So the episode opens up with them in the car eating ice cream from the same spoon. Gross. Anyway, so Karen is just pretty much, expressing how much she hates men. That's all she does. Oh, I hate men, and why do they do this, and why me and all my girlfriends are going through something. Yeah, and he pretty much says, how do you know it's not you? So he tells her about taking responsibility for her actions, and she makes a snide remark about his cheating wife. The way your wife took responsibility, or do you take responsibility for your wife cheating on you? So he ends up looking at her like she's crazy, and he gets out of the car. She gets out, she's trying to apologize to him, and he pretty much bids her good night. And Karen's like, you're not going to ask for my number? And he says, I'm not sure that I want it. So she was like, okay, well, all right, have a good night. So she gets back in the car, and then she looks down at the passenger floor, and she realizes that there was a rose there, and I think it was a card with his number on it. So that was cute. Yeah. Moving along, Danny calls Sabrina. Remember, Danny's the one that works at the airport. She's the very outspoken. She's supposed to be the funny one in the group. So when we left off at the end of episode 2, remember Danny working at the airport. She saw Gary with his wife, but she didn't know at the time that that was his wife. So she pretty much calls Sabrina and tells Sabrina that she sees Gary, and what should she do? So what ends up happening? I think Sabrina calls Karen, and then Karen calls Andi. So all 4 of them are on the phone, and Danny is wanting to walk up and confront him so bad. She has him on like FaceTime or something like that, and they're trying to tell her, no, 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 don't walk up to him, don't walk up to him. And Andi pretty much blurts out, that's his wife. So all of them are on the phone, and like his wife, remember, Karen is the only one that knows that Gary is married. So they're like, what the heck? So Danny was like, meeting at my house tonight at such and such o'clock. So they all meet up, and Danny and Sabrina, they're there waiting for the other ladies to arrive, and they're discussing Gary being married. So apparently, this is when we find out that Danny herself was dating a married man for about a year, and Sabrina knew about that. So when Karen arrives, and then Andi arrives lastly. So they all start smoking weed because that's what Danny does. So Andy's like, do you have any marijuana? So they all start smoking and laughing. This scene was extremely long and drawn out. And Andi decides to tell Danny and Sabrina that Gary is getting a divorce, and they're convincing her like, oh, they always say that, men always say that. And Danny lies and says that she actually went to the courts and saw the divorce papers. So basically, again, Andi's lying, and she's not telling the ladies that Gary's wife actually came into her office, wants to be her client, and she is trying to divorce Gary. So she totally leaves that information out. The only person that's privy to that information is Karen. So it seems that in this scene, it's like you could see like the lines are defined now, because I had a hunch in the first and second episode, but you can clearly see that Danny and Sabrina are close, and Karen and Andi are close. Now, collectively, yes, they're all friends, but it's like those two, they're 2 separate groups. They keep each other's secrets, and, they're close. So, a little bit of division. Wasn't really feeling that, but I get it. Let's see what's up next. So I think hold on, y'all, because my notes playing tricks on me. So yes, they start smoking weed. Sorry, guys. Karen and Andi are driving home. Yes. So Andi is pretty much asking Karen what is wrong with her. We're all successful, black, attractive women. Why do we keep getting wrapped up with these clowns? And then Andi asks Karen if she thinks that Danni was lying about what she saw at the airport. And Karen said, Danni's a lot of things, but a liar she isn't. Now, let me tell you why I didn't like that. Because, see, we all know that homegirl that we were like, girl, Leroy was down at the Piggly Wiggly, with some girl. I don't know who the girl was. You come back and you tell your homegirl about Leroy and his, what he was doing. And then your homegirl, it's like, are you sure it was Leroy? Like, yeah, I know what Leroy looked like. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't know, because Leroy would never do anything like that. And then your homegirl things start to swirl. Your homegirl starts to convince herself that, you're jealous. The only reason why you're saying this is because you're jealous, because they're in denial. They don't want to admit it. And it's funny because even though I didn't like that part of the episode, it was so real. Like, so I can't say that I didn't like it. It was just like, oh God, I didn't know where Tyler was going with the writing. But that moment, that was so real, because we have all probably been there where you try to tell your homegirl something and your homegirl turns around and is like, you think that she telling the truth? She could be lying. So what I do, let me tell you something. I've learned a lot in these precious 36 years that I've been on this earth. And let me tell you something. What I do is, Pamela James ain't seen jack, okay? I'm telling you, that's what I do. Because there are so many people that they say they want you to keep it real. They don't really want, some of them don't, they can't handle the truth. So I'm here. Royal B ain't seen jack, okay? So anyway, so Andi is wondering, like, why would Gary, Andi is a trip. She's wondering, why would Gary, lied to her about, where he would be, because I think he told her that he was going to be out of town. So she's really trying to make sense of this. And this is when I say to myself, ooh-wee, you are wondering why a man who is married, that is sleeping with you, lying to his wife about you, you're wondering why he would lie to you about being out of town when he was really out of town with his wife? Girl. Make it make sense. Anyway, now this is where Andi starts to think that the wife is setting her up. Now, Karen had tried to say this to her, and I had thought the same thing. Like, what if the wife is trying to set her up? Now, the fact that she is really questioning Gary's integrity is really insane to me, girl, because he's married. So he is betraying his wife. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, why do you think that he wouldn't lie to you? Really? Moving along, Danni and Sabrina. So Danni and Sabrina are still at Danni's house. And Danni decides to look up Calvin's information. Calvin is the guy that Sabrina is seeing, who she can't quite figure out if he's gay or if he's straight. So she's been trying to avoid his calls all episode. And she accidentally answers the phone while they're sitting at the kitchen table at Danni's house. So she's acting all weird. And she's just like, oh, no, it's so busy. The first of the month is always busy at the bank. And then he's like, well, today's like the 9th. And she's like, oh, you see how busy I am. She's totally playing kid games trying to avoid him. So he calls her out. He says, look, I don't know what's going on with you, but I like to keep it real. Like, I'm not a kid. I'm not into playing childish games. What's up with you? Like, what's going on? And she's like, who's playing games? I'm not playing games. He said, just keep it real with me, She refuses to do so. She's acting all timid and scared to say whatever it is that she feels. So he pretty much hangs up the phone on her. Like, he ain't got time. So, oh my God, that was so hilarious. So he hangs up, and then we move on to Andi and Gary. So what I come to realize is Gary has a key to her place because he opened the door with a key. Girl, And she basically tells him that he needs to leave. So he begins to question like her whereabouts. He's like, why are you acting like this? Are you cheating on me? And how did you know this? And how did you know that? Like, what's going on? Are you seeing someone else? This scene was extremely comical to me. You, the married man who is sneaking around with Andi, lying to your wife, you lying to Andi, you asking Andi if she's cheating on you. What relationship are y'all in? Y'all don't have you already married, sir. I don't understand. So this was comical. She pretty much tells him, I'm tired of you. You know, she's pretty much tired of him. And Gary starts crying. Now this had me hollering. He starts crying and he's just saying, he says, I love you. And if you want me to, I will pack up everything right now and leave right now. Talking about leaving his wife. He says, you know, if you want me to, you know, all you have to do is say the word. So of course, Andi calls his bluff and she's like, so do it, you know. Then he's like, you know, this is going to directly affect the kids that, you know, he has kids with his wife. He goes into talking about how his son is autistic. And if he's gone too long, his son gets worried. Now, I'm not laughing at autism. I'm not laughing at, you know, any sort of condition that any kids have. I'm laughing at Gary being absolutely ridiculous. Like, he didn't expect Andi to call his bluff. So Andi says she doesn't care. And he needs to choose between her or his wife. And that's, first of all, your mistake is sleeping with a married man, number one. And your second and three strike, you out. What do you mean he needs to choose? He already chose, Andi. Come on, girl. You can't be this stupid. You cannot be this stupid. I'm not telling anybody to choose. I'm going to make the choice for you. First of all, I wouldn't be sleeping with nobody's married man, okay? But in the event that, you know, let's just say I didn't know he was married and then I find out, I'm not telling you to choose between me. I'm out. Peace. Because you're a liar and a deceiver and a heartbreaker. Okay? And nobody got time for that. Miss me with that. And Andi, you're out. This is your third strike with me, sis. You're going to have to do a lot to redeem yourself. I'm not feeling it. Anyway, so Gary basically asked Andi to marry him. He pulls out a ring. He pulls out a ring. Oh my God. And he says, will you marry me? And Andy's like, you are married. Right. That's the same thing I said. You are married, fool. Oh my God. So she tells him to take the ring and skedaddle. So now we see Sabrina at the bank. And Calvin, he enters the bank, but he normally would enter Sabrina's line. But he goes to Maurice's line. Maurice is Sabrina's co-worker, who is gay, a gay black man. And he at one point, well, in the first episode, I think he thought that Calvin liked him. You know, he was being very Maurice. I'll leave it at that. So Calvin goes into Maurice's line and he totally ignores Sabrina and he's very friendly with Maurice, right? So this was ticking me off, you know, and I'm just like, you know, here we go. You know what I mean? And I didn't say anything about Maurice in the first and the second review. And I'm glad I didn't, because now I'm say what I have to say. And Calvin basically asked for Maurice's phone number. Now, Sabrina is there, but she's acting like she's not listening, but she's overhearing all of this. So he asked for his phone number, like, right? No, he walks in, he didn't even acknowledge Sabrina. So I'm saying to myself, yo, this dude is mad immature. Like, anyway. So Maurice is like smitten and he quickly gives Calvin his phone number. And again, here we go with the negative narrative and the negative stereotypes. Like, first of all, I get it. They're work friends. You know what I'm saying? They're colleagues. They're probably not friends outside of work. But why are we seeing this gay man versus the woman narrative? You know, like, I don't know, you know, I'm a heterosexual woman, but I just find this extremely offensive. Even in the first and the second episode, it's offensive to me. His over exaggerated, stereotypical behavior. Like, not all gay men behave the way Maurice does, you know? So I get when people say that his shows are a stereotypical mess. And again, me being a heterosexual woman, I was offended. I just didn't say anything because, you know. Anyway, so Maurice basically tells Sabrina about Calvin, and he was just like, oh, see, he asked me out. And Sabrina she pretty much, she's being snappy with him. And then, you know, after Maurice got Calvin's phone number, or gave Calvin his phone number, he goes to ask Sabrina if it's okay. So Sabrina is like, oh, no, it's okay. You know, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. My thing is, sweetie, Maurice, you wanted to get this man's number anyway because you were convinced that he was gay, you know? But I like what Tyler did later on in the episode. So it makes sense. He seems to be like closing up my gaps of misunderstandings. Anyway, so it seems right here, again, we see that Sabrina, again, didn't speak up for herself. So we're in episode 3, so it's pretty much safe for me to say that Sabrina has a problem speaking up for herself. She seems very passive. And I did get that from the first episode. I said, as far as conflict is concerned, she seems to be like level-headed, but she's very passive. Like, something is bothering her. She's afraid to speak up for herself. So, yeah. So she pretty much calls Danni and tells her that Calvin asked out Maurice on a date, and Danny's at work cracking up laughing. So again, Danny's at the airport. So we see Zach. Remember, Zach is Karen's ex-boyfriend. He does like some sort of transportation. So we see him pulling up with these 3 white women, and they're trying to pretty much get Zach to go on this vacation with them. So he brings them to the counter where Danni is, and he's trying to get them checked in. So they're being real rude and real snobby. They're like, yeah, come with us. Yeah, you know, come with us. We'd love for you to come with us. You know, pretty much propositioning him to have a good time, you know. And Danni tries to look up their reservation, and she pretty much conveniently can't find their reservation. So they act snobby and like, oh my God, I'm going to take my father's plane. Long drawn out scene. So I'm just shaking my head at Zach, and he pretty much, what did she say to him? Danni said, she says something to him like, I saved you or something like that. Yeah, because I was looking like, Zach, that's a Lifetime movie waiting to happen, honey. And I'm just keeping it real. So moving along, we got Calvin and Maurice. They meet up, right? So Maurice, he is smitten. He's excited. And he pretty much exposed that he invited Maurice to this little coffee shop restaurant because he wants to get in closer with Sabrina. So I thought that was funny. Maurice's face was cracked. And he tells Maurice that he is not into guys, you know, and Maurice says that he never met a straight guy that would invite a gay man out. So the story goes that Calvin has been raised by both his fathers, you know, he was raised by gay parents, 2 gay men. Now, this is interesting because Maurice, who is a gay man, found it odd that a straight male was raised by 2 gay men. So I like that little come around moment. I see what you're doing, Tyler Perry. Yeah, because there are a lot of stereotypes with all people, straight people, gay people. So here it is that Maurice is so for certain that Calvin is gay and he wants him. And Calvin is so comfortable in his sexuality that he has gay friends and he's not afraid to approach a gay man to ask him to help him, you know, get comfortable or get cozy or make things right with Sabrina. And the reason being is because he himself has been raised by 2 gay men. So I think that is an interesting dynamic. So bravo on that part, Tyler Perry. I like that. And it shows that not only can straight people have stereotypes or stereotype other people, gay men, some can stereotype straight men as well. So I kind of like that. So Andi and the wife. So it looks like this is 3 episodes in a row now where we see the episode closes with Andi in her office and the wife. No, there's not 3 episodes. Did she do it in the first episode? Second? Or maybe the second one. Anyway, who cares? So she shows up unexpectedly. So Andi is coming into work and her boss is telling her that, you know, whatever, the wife client, I think that's what I called her before, the wife client is in her office. And she pretty much wanted to thank Andi because venting to her kind of allowed her to, I guess, sort things out with Gary. So the wife is, Andi wants to know, did the private investigator find anything out? So the wife said that she's not able to find anything out on the mistress, but she said she is not going to let some devil get between her and her husband. So there basically will be, I saw this coming too. There basically will be no divorce. And the wife client said that Gary came home and he cried to her, telling her that he loves her. And he gave her a new ring and she holds it up. And it's the same ring